The earlier you start and the more you save, just two very basic rules,
things you
right?
can control.
Yep. Start early, save often.
So Kevin, what have you been up to lately?
Soccer. So Nico's have I told you that Nico's playing semi-professional soccer?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So he signed with this Lansing City Football Club and had his first game
how'd he
Tuesday
do?
night.
Good?
Scored a goal.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's electric.
Yeah, so they won 3-0 and he scored a goal. So
good for you,
it
man.
was really neat. So, it's always something to do with soccer, particularly this time of the year. That and just work has been busy. So, how about you?
Spring sports, man. So Elodie's in T-ball right now.
Yeah.
Loving T-ball, loving every second. It's the infield has been pretty fun to go watch. All the kids are of course swarming out for the ball, but then it's all about. I mean, it's all just really learning and the kids having fun. But then them stopping, getting the ball, trying to go throw it the first, and so it's great.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, we never, our kids never played baseball. They like in the backyard they played, but I think we missed that. That would have been fun.
It's a full schedule, man, between dance, T-ball, other sports, school wrapping up, and so it's busy, man. I don't know how I give credit to a lot of other parents out there.
Yeah.
Especially with some kids and some younger sports too.
Yeah. Well, Gigi's been playing soccer too, so she that's going to be we think she's going to try out for their travel team, their Fusion.
Yeah.
And it's going to be curious to see how all that works next year if she makes it and we have 3 kids in travel
Oh,
sports.
my goodness.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it could certainly add to some complexity within, your life and your daily life. And I think for a lot of people too, as they start to go try and balance out work, life, play, it starts to lead people into, hey, can I ever retire early? Does that even ever make sense for us?
Yeah.
Which, as you can guess, is today's topic. And so today's topic is all about financial independence, retire early, or the FIRE movement.
Right. Yep. So basically came out of 2008, as I understand it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like this movement is for people that are maybe a little bit younger than me. It's maybe more millennial.
Sure.
And before, not so much Gen X, because I think us Gen Xers were, I don't know, maybe in our 30s already, right? By the time the great financial crisis was going on. But I mean, I think it's great that people are talking about finance and taking it seriously and talking about retire early.
Sure.
But it kind of got me, it did get me thinking about retirement just in general, right? So the first question I have for you and that I would have for anybody that's into this FIRE movement is, what is retirement, right? If you took out a piece of paper and drew me a picture right now of what retirement looked like for you, what would it be?
I'm probably the wrong person to go ask because, I mean, generally what I love to go do, I do, and this is going to sound super corny. I love what I get to go do every single day. I truly look at my job as a lot of fun. I'm able to go do that. But I mean, if you really had to go prod and poke me to go see, it's just spending more time with family more than anything else.
But to my point, your answer is exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Which is retirement, right? I think many of us look at retirement as this end goal and like, it's like this amazing moment,
The
right?
sky's parting.
Right. And I think it can be. And in particular, it's that freedom, right? But I'm 50 years old, so still, 15, maybe 12 years away from retirement, right? But the closer I get to that point, the more I kind of think, I'm not sure how excited I am about not like working. I do really enjoy what I do. And I don't know that I would ever fully like not want to do anything, right?
Sure.
I like the idea of freedom and being able to do those things when I want to do them. But I do think purpose is really important. I know that's a part of the FIRE movement, right? It's not necessarily just about doing nothing.
Oh yeah, because
finding,
I think if you were to go, let's just go say you can fire or hit your FIRE number, you retire, you sit down, you watch TV 12 hours a day. The purpose necessarily isn't there. The structure isn't there. And I could feel like for your own brain activity, probably not good as well, because I think a common theme you see amongst a lot of older people, 80s, 90s, going well into their hundreds, they're still working, maybe not a traditional job, but maybe volunteering. They still have that purpose that, what's that thing that's going to help you get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah. Yeah, and being social, right? I mean, that's a big part of what we do, what all of us do in the office, right? And frankly, why the return to office, I think, is so important for so many people.
And sure, to be social.
I think it's easy to look at return to office as like almost like a punishment, like, oh, my employer doesn't get it. They don't think I'm effective when I work from home. But it's also, I think you have to think about it from a wellness perspective. We are social animals, right? We long and desire social activity, and just belonging and being a part of a group. And I think that's a big part of it. Right?
Well, it's a huge push. Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. But as you think about what FIRE is, and so some people are probably thinking, well, are you saving 10%? Are you saving 20%?
Right.
So there's a lot of variability with this. And so we're going to go through a couple of different examples. So the general core thesis is being able to have extreme saving. And so your take-home pay, let's just go pretend it's $1,000 a month. You're maybe saving $500 or $700 of that possibly a month. So it's extreme saving, because what you're trying to go do is, hypothetically, if your original retirement date is 65, let's just go say, you know what, I don't want that. Let's try and move it up. Well, if you move it up, you have to go make up for the shortfall somehow. So that's where a lot of that extreme saving can come into. But then into the types of FIRE, it really depends whether people want to go more for a lean FIRE. And so, as you can imagine, retiring on a very minimalistic budget, maybe $25,000 to $40,000 a year in a total outlays. A fat FIRE, and so retiring early with more of a traditional, more of a luxury lifestyle north of $100,000, or maybe more of a barista FIRE. And so maybe it's all about finding what that next purpose is, still supplementing your income, but maybe it could be a little bit less.
Yeah. So for you, where would you, if you were going to go down this path?
Oh, goodness.
Where would you find yourself?
I think probably, if I really had to go pin me down, barista FIRE.
Yeah. No, barista FIRE for me too, right? I mean, part-time work. I even think about that now. I think about my dad. My dad was a judge, right? Retired at the age of 62, had a great pension, but went back to part-time work immediately. Went to work at the stable in Saginaw, which is now Schumacher's. It's a ski and bike shop. Both of those things were a passion of his, and I see myself doing something similar to that. Because again, you're getting that social interaction. You're doing something that you enjoy, that's very familiar to you, that's around your hobby. And let's be honest, getting a paycheck doesn't hurt either.
Almost like fun money too. And I've seen a lot of people too, they might migrate towards maybe some more luxurious resorts, or maybe they might go commute in, because I know some of the perks of those nice golf courses or ski resorts is the employees will often get to go there for free. And so for some people are like, hey, if I always want to go golf here, like for a season, and I can save like 250 times every 18 holes, sign me up.
Yeah, you absolutely just read the blueprint for my dad. Because the other thing, when he was in Michigan, he worked at the stable. Then after Christmas, he would move out to Colorado, and he worked at Breckenridge, Copper, Keystone, several different places.
Oh, wow.
In Summit County, and got a Summit County ski pass.
That's crazy.
And skied as frequently as he absolutely could. So, one thing I think about when I think about this FIRE in particular is sort of the balance between making sacrifices and making memories, right? Because if there's one thing I've noticed, or I probably lean much more towards making memories, right? So I'm willing and that's another reason why barista FIRE would make a lot more sense, I think, for me in particular. I'm happy to make some sacrifices, but more than anything for me, making memories is probably the most important thing. With our oldest, he's going to be 18 soon, going to be a senior, leaving the house. And that's great. I'm excited for him. But, at the same time, I want to make sure that, my kids and my family, my mom, my whatnot have fond memories, right? That I have fond memories of them, and that they have fond memories of me. So,
of course. No, I couldn't agree more too. And be able to still have, you still have your purpose in a barista like FIRE too, but being able to go still be social. And I feel like for some people, they like to go look at that barista FIRE as, okay, I still have my portfolio, and maybe I'm drawing 3 or 4% a year off that, but I'm also having some extra side hustle income in here too, because maybe for some people it could look different. So maybe you barista FIRE at 50, and that income that you might earn off that job might last until Social Security hits. And there's a lot of different ways to go structure that.
Yep. Yeah, and I think one thing, I was doing some research on fire, and there's like some, very basic sort of commandments of it, right? And something I think that becomes really important when you're considering something like this is financial planning.
Oh,
right?
sure.
And that's where I think, because at the end of the day, when it comes to retirement, whether it be through fire or it be through just, more common retirement, which would be at age 62 or 65, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, it's about inflows and outflows. How much am I bringing in? How much is going out?
Of course.
And that's, when you think about financial planning, at its core, that's what it is. But again, I go back to making memories. It's that's to meet your needs, right? Going in, going out, that's to meet your absolute expense living needs.
Sure.
But I think all of us have wants.
Oh, of
right?
course.
We all have wants. We have wishes and desires, things we want to accomplish while we're here. And so you want to be able to really plan for some of those things too and make sure you can accomplish that stuff.
Yeah. And so when people start to go think about, what could your fire number be? Well, a lot of people, and please, in regards to this isn't financial advice. Please do your own research because everyone's fire number and the way how they get to that fire number is gonna be very completely different. But with all that good stuff out of the way, a lot of people go take a look at, they can withdraw possibly 4% off a portfolio in a given year. And theoretically, I use this in quotations, it'd be very tough to outspend your money at that particular point in time. If you do the financial planning correctly, of course, as the asterisk. And so as an example, if someone had a $1 million portfolio, they could possibly have distributions of $40,000 a year in perpetuity and theoretically never run out. Now, of course, that's assuming expenses stay in line and everything else behind the jazz.
And think about inflation, right? Like today, like we talk about like a very important topic of now, right?
Of course,
so your number that, what was right 5 or more years ago, 5-10 years ago, if you did retire, could look very different today.
Oh, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you were, one type of fire, and now you're a barista fire because you need a little part-time gig in order to make up the differences. So I do think you have to remain flexible. Yeah, the 4% rule, we talk about it often, right? Some people argue that it should be more 3.5%, and some folks on the more aggressive side say it could be closer to 5%. A rule that I really like, because the 4% rule is one I think we commonly talk about. One is I was doing some research about fire that I read about that I wasn't so familiar with was the 25 times expenses rule.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I thought that was really interesting. So basically taking what are your expenses times 25 times, and that basically comes up with your number, right? What is it that you need? So for instance, if you had $40,000 a year in expenses, multiply that number by 25, then you come up with the number of $1 million
What's your fire
or
number?
whatnot, what you're going to need in order to retire comfortably. Yep.
And of course, a lot of that depends on, what that lifestyle ultimately looks like as well. And so just to go paint two things in comparison, if you love to travel, love to go take cruise ships, of course, that could cost X, but there's also a lot of different ways to possibly get that number down to Y. I mean, just depending on how flexible you might be, whether it's more so being a barista fire or maybe being a fat fire.
Right.
Just to go draw some comparisons between the two. But vice versa, if you like to take long walks in nature, if you like more of that rural atmosphere, maybe that could be accomplishable with more of a lean fire-like approach.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree with you. And I talk about this with Jody quite often, right? That we take for granted some of the things that are right in our backyard, right?
Sure.
So for instance, here in Midland, right, you've got Midland, you got the city forest, right? You can go out to Sanford and ride the trails out there. Or you can go to Chippewa Nature Center and take a walk or go for a ride. There's so many free activities in our community that if you really did want to be lean, you'd really probably just take your time to be very intentional about taking advantage of those free things. Another free thing that's coming up really soon that I'm going to throw out there as a plug, as a board member of the DDA and as a citizen of downtown Midland, is the concert series.
Oh, for sure.
Coming up, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example of a free activity that's coming up. There's some great bands that come through Midland, through downtown Midland all summer long. Yeah, fantastic free events and could lean in a little bit more into that lean fire.
And so, I mean, instead of paying $15-20 per ticket, I mean, completely free, get to go interact with friends. And then more common than not, a lot of the local downtown businesses as well will be throwing on special deals or other things to get people downtown too. And so could even save some money via that way too. And so it's all really trying to go figure out, what that dream like retirement scenario could also look like.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that we went through and when talking about this was just kind of looking at some examples of what saving looked like, right? So let's say, for instance, you're 25 years old and you want to think about retiring and you make $50,000 a year, right? And what would that mean, or what would it look like if you were able to save, let's say, 25% of your income? And how much money would you have at age 55, right? So I took a look into this. So if I started at age 25 and invested for 30 years, so up until age 55, I'd have almost $1.2 million, right?
Crazy
just
amount.
based on a 6% average return. So I think, listen, really simple rule. The earlier you start, the better, okay? And tax advantaged accounts, right? So we talk about like Roth IRAs, things of that nature. But the earlier you start and the more you save, just two very basic rules,
things you
right?
can control.
Yep. Start early, save often. And that could even go back to, for instance, like university, right? Like, are you going to go to the University of Michigan and maybe you're going to need to take out some loans to get through it? Or are you going to take advantage of one of our fine local universities like SVSU?
Of course.
A little bit less in cost, gives you the opportunity to save more down the line. So I guess kind of unfortunate that at a young age, you're going to maybe really drill down and get serious about finances, but it's important.
It's very important. I think to your point, Kevin, too, being able to think about what are some things you can control versus you can't control. When you're very young, you can control how much money you're spending. You can control how much money you're putting away. The investment returns, of course, we use that 6% as an average over time, but let the things you can control really be in your focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not trying to YOLO with some possible questionable trading.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just looking at going back to that savings rate. So let's see, if we at the age of 25 we're able to save, we're making $100,000 a year, right? So you got a good gig going, which really might be maybe as a couple though, right?
Sure.
It could be a couple.
A good way to think about it.
Yeah, husband and wife each making $50,000. If you're able to save 25% of your income and invest for those 30 years, you'd have $2.4 million at the age of 55.
That's what, 80, 90, 85, 90K a year?
Yep.
4%?
So, you're doing really good.
Doing really good.
So, yeah. Then we talk about investing strategies, and some of I mentioned already, like Roth IRAs, right? Tax advantage strategies would be an opportunity, and also sequence of withdrawals, right? So where are you making your withdrawals from first? Are they coming from cash accounts? Is it coming from a Roth IRA, a 401k? Is it coming from a traditional IRA? Again, kind of full circle back to that financial plan.
Yeah. Absolutely. No. And I think something too is depending on when you might want to go retire could also influence, of course, because you're going to want to go take advantage of your tax preferred accounts. But let's just go pretend you want to retire. This is going to sound crazy. You want to retire at 40. Well, you're going to have to go do a lot of savings in other places as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to impact the kind of house that you buy, right? It's going to impact a lot of
different sacrifices, and so
along the way.
At the end of the day, personal finance is very personal, but for some people, they can see, you know what? Maybe it's they bought a house before COVID, they saw that value shoot up a lot. Maybe they think about downsizing, and probably with the proceeds, possibly maybe investing that, investing some of the savings, and maybe for some people that's worth it.
Yeah,
especially when you go think about the memories and what you're able to go do with the money too.
Yeah. So if you, let's just say, for instance, right, you want to retire at age 40, and you have to, like, what would be the thing that you would find yourself doing more often? Like, why would you maybe, and I know you mentioned you love what you do, you don't see yourself in this vein at all, but thinking of purpose, right? What are some examples of what purpose you might find?
Sure. I know for some people at 40, maybe be more involved being a kid's coach.
Sure.
Maybe within your own sports. Or maybe just being able to go be with your kids. I mean, everyone's still going to be very involved with their kids' life, so maybe be more purposeful. Maybe if it's not at 40, maybe it's at 55 or 60, maybe a little bit earlier. Maybe potentially being a grandparent a little bit earlier on, maybe be very involved in their life, maybe acting as their daycare per se. Could be another good purpose as well. Or maybe it's something to where there might be a nonprofit or a religious organization that might not have the financial resource to hire people, but they love having in volunteers and maybe spending a lot of time there, or possibly becoming an executive director of one of these great local nonprofits too.
Yeah, right. Continuing to work or
Absolutely.
continuing to volunteer time. Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing you have to consider is just rejecting consumerism, right?
Yeah.
Which is so difficult to do. I mean, we're being bombarded through social media and through television advertisements, billboards, whatever it is. If you don't buy this, you're not going to look good and people are going to look at you funny. So you really have to have a strong
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, McDonald's just came out with their chicken tenders again. Of course, I had to have them, but I'm like, $6 for a 4-piece.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I understand inflation's going to come around. I can't even tell you what the last time that I even bought like chicken selects before they were the new name or the new version. But of course, as I was thinking about it afterwards, I'm like, $6, really worth it? You know, maybe that's just more my own thinking in mind. I still think they were very good, very good. But when I saw the $6 versus the $2 I might pay for a McChicken, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, right. Makes you think twice, right? Yeah. Yep.
No ill will towards McDonald's. Love that place. But
yeah, right.
With that being, of course, to the side, it's some very tough decisions.
Yep.
And so for a lot of people, I think about minimalism. And then I know this is going a little more on the extreme side, but what I've seen a lot of people do, one of the guilty pleasures I like indulging myself into is House Hunters and House Hunters International. Love seeing that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And so for some of the episodes on House Hunters International, there are people who achieve the fire. However, instead of staying in America, they might want to relocate down to Mexico.
Oh, sure.
Maybe it's basically to a cheaper location. Maybe $500,000 a year might not afford your fire lifestyle right now in America, but maybe in another country, it could really help you unlock and achieve that much sooner.
Yeah.
And so I've seen some people also do that as well.
Yep.
So more on the extreme side, of course, but for some people, it's what they want to do with their life.
No, absolutely. You hear about like the Philippines or Vietnam or, some foreign countries where your dollar really stretches much better. So I guess it's to each individual, right? And just how important is it for you to have the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it? Yeah, for me, I just can't imagine it with travel, sports, and children and needs and consumerism, right? It's just tough for me to imagine, but I really have a lot of respect for the folks that are able to pull it off. Do you think it's only for privileged individuals, or is it for somebody that makes, 50, 25, 50, some lower income?
No, I think it could be definitely achievable by a lot of people, but I think it's also being able to go level set what that fire level could look like as well. Because for the different examples, maybe someone was earning $50,000 a year. Maybe instead of wanting to go for a fat fire, maybe they think about a barista fire per se, to where they were to go find something to go continue to help supplement their income per se. And so I think something like that would still be accomplishable. But a lot of it, too, to your point, is just how much that you're able to go save and reject the consumerism. And so if you're okay driving a car that might be 10 years old, might be 12 years old, might be 15 years old.
Yeah.
So it runs fine. Does it go to A to B? Yep. Do I need all the fancy features? They're nice to have.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, a heated seat in the Michigan winter.
Yeah. Helps out a lot.
Helps out a lot.
Yeah. That's on Jody's must-have list. It's not like an option.
Saying that out loud, I'm not sure that'd be a pretty tough feature to give up, but nonetheless.
Something, and we already touched upon it a little bit too, but again, if you kind of came up with your fire number 10 years ago, right, and then we're seeing the rise in costs for really just about everything, as you can imagine, but particularly shelter and healthcare, right? How do you adjust for significant changes?
It's very tough. It's very tough, and I know for a lot of people out there, they actually look at the barista fire because now, when I was reading this article, these people who had achieved the barista fire, they would specifically, so they retire from their main job, and with these side jobs, they would actually go look into part-time employment that would actually could help guarantee a safe level of insurance. And so instead of going out to the market and paying $1,500, $2,000 a month possibly, if not more for medical care, that number is dramatically scaled back. Or possibly, I know for some other people out there, I'm trying to think what the right word is, but this documentary that was, I think it was on YouTube. I can't remember who was the actual page that that originated it from, but they would be work campers, and so they would live out of their motorhome or they'd live out of their fifth wheel camper, and that'd be their housing. And then they'd pretty much go to these seasonal gigs. And one of the things about seasonal gigs is, unfortunately, they're not year round, but the 3 or 4 months that they might be open, they're going to pay more money because it's not a year-round gig. And so just some other ways I've seen people get around some of those common costs.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I think just being able to revisit your financial plan.
Of course.
Right. I think I'll just keep circling back to that. I really think that in order to make this work, and I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not, this is a topic that really isn't close to my heart. And not that, saving and investing responsibly and financial planning, those things are all important to me. Retiring early is not on my list of to-do things, really. But I am, in some ways, I'm envious of the folks that can make that happen.
Yeah. No, and it's super interesting, too, because when you go hear about the journey of the things that some people did to really go achieve the number, you can really see the passion start to go exude out. And so whether it's selling a truck, getting a Prius, riding your bike back and forth, making a vegetable garden, because I think along the way, too, like, let's just go say, for instance, to go try and save some money on some food. You go have a chicken coop, or you go have a vegetable like garden. And so maybe it's integrating the family more into doing some of those tasks and other opportunities, and maybe it's almost fun in a ways for some people. So
it's a personal choice. So if you're out there and you're listening and thinking, is fire for me? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. There's everything from, like you talked about, lean fire, where people are saving as much as like 70% of their income, which seems wild to me. Or to the barista fire, where maybe it's 25% or something like that. But in the end, I guess I'd say it's different for everyone, and I would say if you're really considering it, financial planning is critical.
Of course, and besides listening to this podcast, there's a lot of mini documentaries out there, especially on YouTube too, and just being able to go glean in about some of the people, because of course some of the people are going to be not so honest and be like, yeah, this is the best thing I've ever done, but maybe some people. Like, I remember watching one little mini doc. It was maybe 8 or 10 minutes. The couple, they sold everything. They got a sailboat. Now, they'd never gone sailing before. So I think that may have been one of the things that may have pressed them along the way. But they're saying, this may not have been the best idea.
Yeah. And I guess doing your homework, right, to make sure that what you're seeing is reality, right? Because it could be that, it looks great and they've saved all this money, but in reality, there's a trust fund out there that they're getting a monthly income from, right? Maybe it's, there's a lot of people that want to be, Instagram famous or social media famous.
Sure.
And so you really have to do your homework and make sure that the image that you're seeing is reality.
Just like a former Mitten Money podcast episode, beware of financial influencers.
Yes. Yep. The finfluencers. You got to be careful of that. Yeah.
And so, Kevin, I think now we're at the point of the show. What have you been watching?
So I have been watching the Four Seasons on Netflix.
Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve Carell, Will Forte, Tina Fey. It's just a really good show about some couples probably in their, mid-50s that are going through different life challenges. And it's comedic, right? In some ways, it's sort of a black comedy. In many ways, it deals with some dramatic issues, things like that, too. So deals with divorce and death and all those things. So really like it. I saw that it was ranked really highly on Netflix here recently. So, hey, if you're looking for something fun to watch, something to binge watch, one of our friends, Jody, was telling me, just binge watch the whole thing on like a Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
So, it's commitment.
A lot of watching. I mean, it's on my watch list. And so something that I've been watching lately, continuing to go watch, The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah.
Season 2 continues to impress me every single episode. No spoilers, of course, out there, but the quality and the talent of the actors and actresses in that show is just off the charts.
Yeah. I'm still watching, but I will say episode 2 threw me off the tracks for a moment there, and I'm still reconciling that and deciding whether or not I can continue on. So we'll see.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's definitely a challenge, but I think with any good show, what I like to go think about is the people who are directing and making the show, they have so much financial capital possibly at stake with the show. And so I'm hoping that they're able to go navigate around some of the tricks and the turns in the road to go hopefully continue to go drive down the road in a good way. So Well, everybody, until next time, thank you everyone for listening to another great episode or watching another great episode of Mint Money. Thanks again.